Did you know that the word Halloween can be translated as Holy Night? But holy for whom? What happens when a night meant to be sacred is hijacked by rituals of death and darkness? In this video, we're dismantling Halloween. We'll explore the etymology of the word, delve into its pagan roots, and expose the true meaning behind trick or treat, costumes, and glowing pumpkins. Our goal is to reveal the spiritual aspect many overlook. Stay until the end to understand why, as Christians, celebrating Halloween is spiritually dangerous, and how American culture turned an ancient Druid ritual into a billion-dollar industry that enters many American homes every year. The word Halloween comes from something that sounds sacred. It contracts from All Hallows' Eve, meaning the evening before All Saints' Day. In the Christian calendar, November 1st was set aside to honor believers who had died in faith. The night before became known as the eve of this holy day. But here begins our first discovery. When church leaders chose November 1st for All Saints' Day, that date was already occupied. Ancient peoples across Northern Europe already marked this time with rituals far older than any Christian observance. The church tried to overlay a holy remembrance on top of existing pagan celebrations. Think of it like painting white over a dark stain. From a distance, it might look clean, but underneath the original mark remains, and given enough time, it bleeds through. This is exactly what happened with Halloween. The attempt to create a Christian holy day on this date did not purify the older customs. Instead, it absorbed them. The darkness put on a costume of light, but it never changed what it was underneath. A night meant for life and holiness was seized by rituals of death and darkness. It is a classic case of religious mixing where darkness wore a light costume. The very name that sounds holy became a doorway for something else entirely. And to understand what walked through that door, we must travel back before the Christian calendar, to the festival that refused to die. So we've discovered the name sounds holy, but it covers something much older. What was already happening on October 31st that the church tried to replace? Let's meet the real birthday of Halloween. Long before anyone called it All Hallows' Eve, the Celts of ancient Britain and Ireland knew October 31st by another name, Samhain. This was their New Year's Eve, but not like ours with fireworks and resolutions. Samhain marked the death of the year. Picture those ancient hills as October ended. The last harvest was gathered. The green fields turned brown. Animals were brought in from pasture. Winter was coming, and with winter came death. The Celts watched their world dying around them, and they believed that on this one night, death itself drew near. They believed the veil grew thin and the dead walked. On Samhain night, the boundary between the living and the dead became like tissue paper. Spirits of those who had died during the year were thought to return, searching for warmth, for food, for bodies to possess. The wild hunt rode across the sky. Fairy mounds opened. Things that should stay buried walked the earth. This was not play. It was a season defined by fear. Families huddled inside, hoping the roaming spirits would pass them by. Some left food outside their doors as offerings. Others extinguished their hearth fires, making their homes look abandoned. Everyone knew the rules. Don't go out after dark. Don't look them in the eye. Don't let them know you're alive. Here's what we must understand. These people truly believed the dead returned. They shaped their entire year around this belief. Their fear was real. Their rituals were desperate attempts at survival. October 31st was the most dangerous night of their year, when the world of the dead invaded the world of the living. The church tried to paint over this with All Saints' Day, but fear that deep doesn't disappear because you change the calendar. The terror of Samhain lived on, wearing new names, but keeping its old face. Now we come to the rituals themselves. If you believe the dead were coming, what would you do? The Celts had their answers, and every one of them opens a door God commanded us to keep shut. The Druids, the Celtic priests, lit massive bonfires on hilltops. These weren't campfires for warmth. The Druids claimed these sacred fires could reveal the future. They watched how the wood burned, which way the smoke blew, what shapes appeared in the flames. They threw bones of sacrificed animals into the fire, studying how they cracked and fell. From this comes our word bonfire, originally bonefire. But the people did something even more disturbing. They wore costumes, but not for fun. They dressed in animal skins and heads, painting their faces with ash from the sacred fires. Why? To hide from the spirits. If a dead soul saw you dressed as a beast or a demon, maybe it would think you were one of them and pass you by. Listen to what God says about such practices. In Deuteronomy 18:10-12, the Lord speaks clearly. There shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that useth divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. For all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. Every element is there. The ritual fires for divination, the seeking of knowledge through supernatural means, the attempt to interact with the dead. God calls these things abomination, not mistakes, not cultural differences. Abomination. It was not a joke. It was a ritual built on fear and contact with spirits. The people of Samhain were doing exactly what God forbids his children to do. They were opening doors to the spirit world, seeking protection through occult means, trying to manipulate spiritual forces through ritual and disguise. Consider this parable. A child finds a bottle with a skull and crossbones on the label. But someone has pasted a smiley face sticker over the warning. The child drinks because the new label looks friendly, but the poison inside hasn't changed. This is Halloween's story. The warning labels were covered with new names, but the spiritual poison remains. So we've seen the ancient fears and forbidden rituals. But how did these dark practices end up as a children's holiday in America? The transformation will surprise you. The Druids' fires should have died out centuries ago. The costumes should have stayed buried with the old ways. But in the 1800s, something unexpected brought them back to life. The Irish potato famine sent over 1 million Irish immigrants to America. They brought their October traditions with them, including what remained of Samhain, now wearing its Christian costume as All Hallows' Eve. But America was different. Here, communities were looking for reasons to gather, for shared celebrations that could unite neighborhoods. Halloween got a makeover. Community leaders worked to take the frightening elements out, to make it a party for everyone. Newspapers encouraged parents to remove anything frightening or grotesque from Halloween celebrations. The focus shifted to games, treats, and community fun. By the 1920s and 1930s, Halloween had become a massive community event. Towns held parades, schools organized parties. The candy industry saw opportunity and poured money into promoting trick-or-treating. By the 1950s, Halloween was a multi-million-dollar business. America stripped the obvious pagan skin, wrapped it as fun, and sold it back to the world. Movies spread the American version globally. Television shows made Halloween episodes. The commercial machine turned a night of terror into a night of profit. The packaging changed. The poison did not. Think about what happened. Business interests took rituals designed to appease evil spirits and marketed them as harmless fun. They kept all the symbols of death, witchcraft, and fear, but told us they didn't mean anything anymore. Like keeping a loaded gun as a toy because we painted it bright colors. Today, Halloween is a $6 billion industry in America alone. It has spread to countries that never knew Samhain, never heard of Druids, never feared the thinning veil. Japan celebrates Halloween now. So does Singapore, Brazil, and India. America exported its sanitized version of ancient fears around the globe. We're halfway through our journey tonight. We've seen how a pagan festival got a Christian name, how immigrant traditions became American celebration, and how commerce spread it worldwide. Now let's examine what we actually do on Halloween night and what it really means. Every Halloween, children approach doors with the same phrase, trick or treat. We think it's cute, but do we hear what they're really saying? Give me something, or I'll do something bad to you. It's a threat wrapped in a sing-song voice. This custom has two dark roots. First, medieval souling, where poor people went door to door on All Souls' Day, offering prayers for the dead in exchange for food. They believed their prayers could help souls escape purgatory faster. The treat bought spiritual favor for the household's deceased. The second route reaches back to Samhain itself. Celts left food outside their doors for roaming spirits. Offer something to the wandering ones or expect trouble. If the spirits found no offering, they might curse your home, destroy your crops, or possess your children. Modern trick-or-treating combines both practices. Children dressed as spirits come to your door demanding payment. The threat of a trick echoes the ancient fear of spiritual retaliation. We've made it playful, but the transaction remains the same: appeasement to avoid harm. Here's a simple question. If a stranger came to your door any other night of the year and said, "Give me something or I'll vandalize your property," what would you call that? Extortion. But on Halloween, we call it tradition. The candy in the bowl is more than sugar and chocolate. It's the continuation of an ancient transaction with darkness. Every trick or treat echoes the old bargain: feed the spirits or face their wrath. We've forgotten the origin, but we keep performing the ritual. Now we dress our children as the very things ancient peoples feared. We send them out as witches, demons, ghosts, and monsters. The costume shops overflow with representations of evil, and parents spend billions to transform their children into images of death. Remember why the Celts wore disguises. They dressed as spirits to hide from spirits. They believed looking like the dead would make the dead pass them by. It was camouflage born from terror. Today we say it's just for fun. But what are we actually doing? We're dressing our most innocent ones in the uniform of darkness. We're teaching them that evil is a costume you can try on and take off. That witchcraft is a game. That death is entertaining. God has different clothing in mind for his people. Ephesians 6:11 tells us, "Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil." We're called to dress for spiritual warfare, not to imitate the enemy. Why dress a child in the image of what God calls evil? Would we dress them as drug dealers for fun, as murderers for entertainment? Yet we readily dress them as witches, who God says should not be allowed to live, or as demons, who are fallen angels in rebellion against the Creator. A mother spent hours making her daughter into a perfect witch. Black dress, pointed hat, fake warts, the works. At the party, someone asked the girl what she was supposed to be. The child answered proudly, "I'm what the Bible says is an abomination." The mother laughed. Everyone laughed. But the child spoke truth no one wanted to hear. That glowing pumpkin on your porch has a story, and it's not a happy one. The jack-o'-lantern comes from an Irish tale about a man called Stingy Jack. Jack was a trickster who trapped the devil and made him promise not to take Jack's soul when he died. But Jack lived such an evil life that when he finally died, heaven wouldn't take him. He went to hell, but the devil, keeping his promise, wouldn't take him either. Jack was condemned to wander between worlds forever. The devil threw Jack a burning coal from hell's fires. Jack carved out a turnip, placed the coal inside, and used it as a lantern to light his endless wandering. The jack-o'-lantern represents a soul with nowhere to go, rejected by heaven and hell, wandering in darkness with only hellfire for light. When Irish immigrants came to America, they found pumpkins easier to carve than turnips. But the meaning stayed the same. Every carved pumpkin is Stingy Jack's lantern. Every glowing face is a lost soul signal fire. The smiling pumpkin is a signal lantern for a soul with no home. We've put the symbol of ultimate spiritual lostness on our porches and called it decoration. We've made damnation into a craft project. Children carve faces into vegetables to represent souls rejected by God, and we take pictures for the photo album. What message does this send? That being lost from God is funny? That hell is a joke? That eternal separation from the Creator is something to recreate with a candle and a gourd? Now let's see how all of this shapes our hearts and our children's futures. Halloween has become so normal that questioning it seems strange. It's the second most commercially successful holiday in America. The world sold it as play. The symbols stayed the same. But here's what we must understand. What we normalize, we nurture. Every year we train millions of children that death is entertaining, that evil is a costume, that darkness is fun. We're not just celebrating a holiday. We're forming souls. The retail industry doesn't care about the spiritual implications. They care that Americans spend billions on costumes and candy. The entertainment industry doesn't care about the occult origins. They care that Halloween movies and shows draw huge audiences. Commerce has no conscience. But Christians must. Every Halloween, Christian parents face a choice. Do we go along because everyone else does? Do we participate but try to sanitize it somehow? Or do we stand apart and risk being called extreme? Consider this truth. Spiritual formation happens through repetition. Every year a child dresses as a witch. The idea of witchcraft becomes more normal. Every year they pretend to be dead things. Death becomes less serious. Every year they participate in rituals rooted in fear and darkness. Their spiritual sensitivity dulls. The commercial success of Halloween proves nothing about its spiritual safety. Cigarette companies were commercially successful while killing millions. The slave trade was profitable while destroying souls. Success in the marketplace doesn't equal righteousness before God. We've lifted Halloween's mask tonight. Under the candy and costumes, we found Samhain's fear. Under the jack-o'-lanterns, we found lost souls. Under trick or treat, we found ancient appeasement. Under All Hallows' Eve, we found a doorway that should have stayed closed. Scripture gives us clear guidance. 2 Corinthians 6:14 asks, "What fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness?" The answer is none. We cannot serve God while playing with symbols of evil. 1 Thessalonians 5:22 instructs, "Abstain from all appearance of evil." Not just evil itself, but even its appearance. Halloween is nothing but the appearance of evil, from the decorations to the costumes to the practices. So what can Christian families do instead? Create new traditions that celebrate life, not death. Host harvest parties that thank God for provision. Organize service projects that bless your community. Use October 31st to pray for those trapped in real darkness. Some will call you extreme. Some will say you're overreacting. Your children might complain about missing out. But remember, we're not called to be popular. We're called to be holy. We're not called to fit in. We're called to stand out. The choice is yours. You can follow the crowd down streets decorated with death, or you can light a different path. You can dress your children as demons, or you can dress them in righteousness. You can fill their bags with candy given in fear's tradition, or you can fill their hearts with God's truth. Halloween asks you to celebrate death. Christ calls you to celebrate life. Halloween says darkness is fun. Christ says he is the light. Halloween trades in fear. Christ offers perfect love that casts out fear. The mask has been lifted. The truth has been spoken. Now comes your decision. Will you continue to let October 31st be a night when darkness is invited to your door? Or will this be the year you finally say, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord"?